6 months after the BP oil blow-up, the country's learned some hard lessons. 50,000 Americans worked long days in the hot summer trying to clean up this oil. It made a big difference, but they didn't get it all. We're here in Bay Jimmy, middle of Barataria Bay, in the foundation of life, the wetlands, the marshlands, home to crabs, oysters, shrimp, speckled trout, birds of all kinds. This is the foundation of life in the Gulf of Mexico. 97% of the seafood we get out of the Gulf of Mexico owes its life at some point to these kinds of wetlands. And you can see behind me where the oil has destroyed the first layer of this marsh, leading to erosion, accelerating the destruction of this fertile marshland. These waters are not only home to fish, but they're the bank account for many of the 14 million Americans who live along the Gulf of Mexico. This is where they invest for their oysters, for their crabs. This is the area they rely on to put food on the table for their families, to save money to send their children to college, to save money to put that health care for that elderly family member. We've talked to people here, oyster gatherers, shrimpers, crabbers, who've lost what they had hoped for in this season. Oyster men who have acres out here of oysters that have been lost due to this oil. It takes a oyster about 5 years to get the shucking size. So oyster people who had lost their oysters when Katrina roared through here 5 years ago had viewed this as the year to pay back. This was the year they were supposed to harvest those oysters, and so many of them are gone. You can hear in the background propane guns being fired off to keep birds from landing in these oiled marshes. These are nest areas, important migratory routes for birds that are headed as far south as South America. So many questions are unanswered even 6 months after this blowout. The President's commission is looking into the causes of the blowout, what we need to implement going forward. We don't know what's happening to the next generation of speckled trout in these waters, bluefin tuna, so many species, from the sperm whale to the tiniest shrimp, from pelicans to the plankton. But we've learned three things. Number one, the Gulf of Mexico is a national treasure. It's not a national sacrificial zone. We need to start treating it like the treasure that it is. Two, we need to make the people of the Gulf of Mexico whole. They paid a grievous price for this oil spill. We need to stand by them as a nation. We all rely on a healthy Gulf. As long as we're going to be looking for oil in this deep water, we need to put together the safeguards we need to do it in a reliable way to minimize the risk to this precious area. The Interior Department has made some steps to make drilling safer. The House will pass legislation to do the same. Now the Senate needs to act. When it comes back in the lame duck session, the Senate needs to act to implement these safeguards, make them law, so they have the force of law. And three, ultimately, we're going to need to reduce our reliance on oil as a country. Every day in this country, we use 800 million gallons of oil. That's enough to fill the Empire State Building 3 times. We have to reduce our reliance on oil. Not today, not tomorrow, but over time. 8 presidents, going back to Richard Nixon, have asked us to do this because they know by doing it, we'll make the country more secure, we'll strengthen our economy, we'll create a healthier future for our children. What happened here in the Gulf of Mexico 6 months ago is a national wake-up call. It's a 3-mile island of deep water drilling. We need now to act as a country and begin to move away from our reliance on this dangerous fuel toward cleaner, safer, more sustainable sources of energy and power. We need to do it for our country. We need to do it for our economy. We need to do it for our children. We need to do it for the people of the Gulf of Mexico. We need to do it for Americans everywhere.